StyxHexenHammer has given his breakdown of Bernie Sanders announcing his presidency. He decided to give his political analysis on, what are Bernie's odds in terms of winning the primaries, what are his odds of winning a general, and just overall giving his breakdown of all of the different candidates, or some of the different candidates in the race. He's going to say some pretty damning things about the candidates currently in the race, like Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders. And he's also going to make some predictions on a general election between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. So we're going to look at a couple of these clips, and we're going to break some of these down and see what I think about them.
In, does this make it more or less likely that Biden gets in? I can't answer that. Biden's still looking at a field that is fundamentally filled with far leftists. Sanders, who has the numbers, he has 15-20% of the support of the party right off the bat. Mainline candidate at this point, which is hilarious. It's hilarious to think of someone like Bernie Sanders being a mainstream Democratic candidate, along with Kamala Harris, who's number 2 in support, and Elizabeth Warren, who's number 3. They're all basically socialists. It's funny, they say, well, Kamala's not really a social democrat. Well, she's one of those tough on crime weirdos from the last era, but everything else she does is far left. And that's like an impossible thing to spin with the younger left-wing voters, or now the millennials, the almost middle-aged voters. We're like the equivalent of Gen X back in the Bush administration, starting to come of age. I don't think Kamala is going to be able to do it. Here's the thing. This fundamentally shifts the dynamic of the race, though. You've got another person on the far left packed into the field, and he out-far lefts most of them, with the exception, again, of maybe a Kamala Harris. He's going to be, most likely, the one that appeals to the missing link sort of block. That is, people who want...
So I know that in the last video I made about Styx, which was his really garbage video about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which in that video, basically, he was lambasting AOC for being a 29-year-old who can't afford 2 sky-high rents, which was unbelievably stupid, because that's not supposed to be something that's supposed to be partisan. Because when you don't have someone like that, you have someone like Dianne Feinstein, who's worth $100 million due to, I forgot where she got her money, but, she's superbly rich, and then doesn't represent, the will of the people. But anyways, so he there says that they're all socialists. He claims that Kamala Harris is a socialist, which is unbelievably stupid, because there's no indication of that whatsoever. But you're talking about Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren being socialist. And as I had to explain in the other one, I'm sure he knows this by now. I think he just does it because no one in his audience really cares. But they're not socialists. They're not calling for the means of production to be, intercepted by the workers and therefore taken from the, owner class, and then have, take out, Jeff Bezos and have the workers own the Amazon factories. That's not what Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren are calling for. They are social democrats. They believe in a capitalist system with a heavy welfare state. They want to do, Elizabeth Warren proposed a pretty milquetoast 2% wealth tax on people with assets of over $50 million, which is an insane amount of money. And that seems like an entirely reasonable policy. A policy of, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez proposing a 70% marginal tax rate on money made after $10 million in a year. So if you make $10 million in $1, you pay 70% on just $1. You would pay the highest rate on the first, $10 million. So none of those positions are socialist. They are fully social democratic principles. And this framing of Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Kamala Harris, by the way, and he says here Kamala Harris is far left. Kamala Harris is not far left, even in the slightest, by no odds whatsoever. So what she's doing right now is she's totally faking everything, because she's a narcissist who doesn't care about positions. All she cares about is getting elected. So it's irrelevant what the means are to get there. And I have evidence of this, obviously. First of all, you can look at her positions back then, and he brings it up about how she was a tough on crime weirdo, but he uses that as some sort of a way to be like, that's an indicator that she's far left, which could not be, more wrong, because the people who are social democrats and further on the social democratic spectrum are the ones who are pissed off about that, people like me. So that didn't make any sense. But remember what she said about Medicare for all. how do you get asked a question about Medicare for all? Say we should abolish private insurance plans. And by the way, Bernie's plan, what it would do is it would abolish all current plans, institute Medicare for all, and then you can get a supplemental care. And just like there's a law right now where you can't duplicate Medicare, you wouldn't be able to do that under a Medicare for all system, obviously. So how do you get asked a question about Medicare for all? You get asked, hey, do you really want to abolish private health insurance? And you answer, yes, we need to move on from that. And then less than 24 hours later, you say that you're open to other routes in terms of getting to universal health care. What that tells you is that's an indicator that, hey, she doesn't really support Medicare for all. Rather, what she supports is whatever it is that will get her elected. She doesn't even really have any positions. What indicator do you have that she's far left in any way? She said she supported Medicare for all. She backed down from that in less than 24 hours. It's less than a day's span after that CNN town hall. She is not far left. Stop saying that. She's a complete fraud. Bernie Sanders isn't going to get out-lefted by Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris is not far left. She's a corporate centrist joke. That's what she is. Okay, and she's basically Obama 2.0, but maybe even worse because she's promising even more as a campaigner than Obama did, and she's going to end up, resulting in the same, or probably, she's going to end up giving less because her promises were all that higher. Now he's going to make a really odd argument about Bernie Sanders' electability in terms of a general in the primary.
Can you say it really matters who he chooses as his running mate? And by the way, if you think that the average American is going to swallow his bait, the bullshit bait of free stuff, I don't think that's going to happen. Look, he couldn't even beat Hillary Clinton in the last primaries. Here's the matchup the last time around. Hillary Clinton, one of the most disliked candidates in the history of the U.S. Political system. One of the most disliked of all. She constantly made mistakes. She constantly alienated people. She had enough baggage to sink the fucking Titanic. And yet she still managed predominantly to beat Bernie Sanders up badly. Now, of course, part of that is she outraised and outspent him 5-1 during the primaries, but as we saw, that doesn't translate to anything in the general election. Corporate money only goes so far now because you have a robust independent media and people take to their online accounts and they spread and amplify messages that don't cost anything to make. Trump makes a meme, millions of people are reached, for free. He needs no further effort. It's a simple tweet, it takes him 10 seconds. This is increasingly, you're seeing this among Democrats. You've seen Gabbard do it, certainly with her surfing pictures. You saw Cortez do this.
So as I have done in a couple videos now, I did it in my Tim Pool video that I did in other videos as well, I've explained to you guys in the Steven Crowder video, is that the policy positions that are held by Bernie Sanders and AOC are extremely, extremely popular amongst the American people. So when he basically says, I'm sure they're not, the American people are not going to take the bait of free stuff. When you look at the polling data, they largely agree with Bernie Sanders. So, Medicare for all, poll after poll shows a majority of support. Some polls have Republicans at over 50%. Some polls have it at 45%. There's a heaping amount of Republicans who support Medicare for all, and that should be very telling to you. Other positions like free college, for example. Remember raising taxes on the wealthy. So AOC's marginal tax rate was extremely popular. Not only that, but Fox News did a poll asking, hey, do you support raising taxes on those making over $10 million a year? It was a 46-point margin that said yes. So this, attempted fail at intellectualism, or I don't even know what to call it that, whatever it is, just trying to say that, Bernie's a dumb free offer or whatever is stupid argument, is total bogus, man. Complete bogus. Because if you go issue by issue, the American people largely support what Bernie Sanders supports. So stop with the nonsense. That doesn't make any sense. Do your research. I don't know if he knows about this. It's almost hard not to know because it's such a widespread and prevalent information, right? And it's just it's embarrassing. And then he really attempts to pull out the argument that he lost to Hillary Clinton as to why he can't win in either the primary or the general. Are you kidding me, dude? Are you fucking trolling? I mean, first of all, the DNC rigged the election against him, and the media did too. And so when you talk about Trump, being able to win, yeah, dude, because the media, and especially during the primary, oh my God, they would get all of these sound bites and play them 24/7 on CNN because it was good for ratings. So what happened to Trump was the exact opposite of what happened to Bernie Sanders. I think the CNN had showed like an empty Trump, he hadn't even come out yet to give a speech. They were showing that instead of Bernie Sanders actually giving a speech. They boxed Bernie out. And what they did for Trump is they covered him nonstop 24/7. So don't compare Trump's win in any way to this. That doesn't make any sense. Donald Trump had a crap ton of money to spend on everything. He spent a ton of money. He had a lot of money. So also, very important to note, who was Bernie Sanders before that election cycle? Now, a lot of diehard politics guys knew about Bernie Sanders prior to that. Now, I really wasn't into politics long before he announced, so I actually didn't know him until he had announced, but I wasn't really into politics for very long before that had happened. So there were, some really people who were really, really deep who knew him, but the vast majority didn't know him. I think it was like 58% had no opinion on him in polling data, and now it's like 8%. So when you're talking about a rando dude from Vermont, an independent senator, he's not even a Democrat, he's an independent who caucuses with Democrats, and the Democrats actually claim him. When he comes in to go against Hillary Clinton, how could you expect him to win? Are you stupid? That's legitimately the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my entire life. The argument being used against Bernie Sanders, who was A, a nobody, B, cheated by the DNC, C, the media boxed him out. And you're telling me that it's somehow a shock that he didn't win, or that it was some sort of a lock for him to win? Oh, please, dude. That is an embarrassing argument if I've ever heard one. Probably the worst.
No, I do not believe he can win a general against Trump. I believe he can potentially win the primaries, unless Biden gets in which case there's, I would say, better than 50-50 chance Biden wins. Sanders would be, definitely number 2 on that list, and then Kamala and Elizabeth Warren kind of viable. Look, none of those people, though, I think can win a general. I think that they're too far left, and in Biden's case, too old. He's simply too old, and he can't coalesce. Do you think that Joe Biden can really whip the young left-wing Democrats up into a frenzy? He's not going to be able to accomplish that, even if he does drag Obama out on stage over and over, which, trust me, would be part of his strategy. That's about all. Peace out.
Bernie Sanders would smash Trump in a general election. Okay, let's keep it real. First of all, the polling data during the primary showed that some polls showed that he was winning by double digits, man. Donald Trump is extremely lucky that it wasn't Bernie Sanders who came out of that out of the primary, because in that general election, he was about to get mauled, dude. He was going to get murked. You know why? Think about it this way also. All Hillary Clinton had to do was keep what was deemed the blue wall in those 3 Rust Belt states. Those 3 Rust Belt states. Bernie Sanders 100% would have won those Rust Belt states, because his position on free trade is protectionism. He doesn't want to do NAFTA. He doesn't want to have those jobs shipped overseas. So he would not have lost those 3 states. And if Hillary had won those 3 states, she would have won the election. Donald Trump had an extremely difficult road to win the election. Somehow he managed to make it. Think about it this way, guys. He had to win Florida and Ohio and bump into the blue wall by taking 3 Rust Belt states. Do you have any idea how unlikely it is to get that? Bernie Sanders would have punked Donald Trump, okay? He would have punked him. And then he says that, he's too far left for the American people. As I just told you, the polling data consistently has shown that the American people agree with Bernie Sanders on his positions. Simple as that. There's no debate about it, because the polling data shows what the polling data says. And that's actually a good thing for Bernie Sanders, because people are looking for something to vote for. They're more excited about those positions. And Hillary Clinton lost because she was, I usually say slightly left of center. Some people just say she was straight up a Republican, because she really didn't have many left-wing positions, really, if any, honestly. I mean, like, oh yeah, let's keep Obamacare in place. Woo! Really want to vote for that, right? That's the reason why Hillary lost, because she was, amongst other things as well, to be fair, she was a horrifyingly bad campaigner, very cringe, a cringe machine, to say the least. But certainly a big reason why she lost was because she was just too right-wing. So these kinds of arguments from Styx are very unconvincing, and many of them are just stupid.